that's the whole point of my business also, is to like strategize and integrate law in such a way where you're positioning yourself for success rather than in a way where you're just scrambling later on and spending tons of money and tons of stress for no reason.
And, I still see, among the smaller businesses that aren't using, contracts still. Well, I don't know if they think I'll deal with it later, or, I have these relationships, therefore I don't need them. But, again, intellectual assets are legal constructs, right? So if you don't have an agreement in place, then, you have to have them. And understanding, even the smallest business, doesn't need to be 100-page agreements, which we've all looked at, right? But it can be very simple and doesn't have to be scary.
So you've said two really important things. One, that intellectual property is probably the most important thing that is now being offered in most service-based businesses. And most service-based businesses was comprising the majority of the biggest businesses in the world. I can say that too, I think. And another thing is that with intellectual property, a lot of us don't realize that we're creating that from the beginning. And a contract is the only way you can ensure ownership of it or to transfer ownership of it. And people don't realize that. Like, you can't verbally do that. I'm sorry. Like,
I'll tell you a story about a web designer. So really, great relationships. So he used, can't recall what the subcontractor was. I think it was a graphic designer. So he has a big project. He creates this website for his client. The client's very happy, transfer all of the intellectual property rights in the website to me. Great, except he didn't have an agreement with the graphic designer. So guess what? He didn't have the rights to transfer to the end client. End client was pretty unhappy, as you can imagine. And so that is why it's just, if you don't have a written agreement, then that graphic designer actually owns what they created, not you, and you don't have the rights to send them on to your client. So,
exactly. And I think, with the advent of all of these service-based companies such as Canva, like all these places where you're creating on their platforms, it's so important to read the terms and conditions. And literally just scroll down to IP if you need to. Like, just know who owns what. And if you have even a license to be able to use one of their fonts even to sell a product at the end of the day, because you're creating product on there to sell or to distribute for yourself. So can you use it? Can you use it in a way that's authorized or not?
Now, very few people read the terms and conditions. The other thing in there is, if it's something where you store personal data, can you get it up? Like, who owns it? What can they do with it? Sometimes it'll say, we can, aggregate it to do certain things with it. And you just want to make sure that you understand what's being done with the things that you're storing on that third party site as well.
Yes. So, I think Facebook was really notorious about this in the beginning. And there was, I can't recall now, that there was this thing in there where they were able to use anything that you post. Inadvertently, you're giving them authorization to use it for their marketing purposes. And
really, I will say I don't know. I know almost nothing about Facebook, and happily, I know very little about Facebook. But I have heard, I've heard.
A lot of times people think of copyright or intellectual property or trademark, and they're thinking, oh, a movie, a book, something. Traditionally, what we see, like a painting, but there's so much more to. Like assets of intellectual property that go beyond the movies and the books. So
absolutely.
I love that you're actually bringing that out there. So if there is somebody that comes to you today and it's like, hey, how do I figure this out? I don't even know where to start. Like, where would you tell them to start?
Well, I mean, I do have a worksheet that helps me do that. So I have put together a worksheet. It is called, Is There a Rembrandt in Your Attic? And it basically is a way for them to, like, an initial self-assessment to get them thinking about ways that they can, like, one, what type of assets might they have in their business? So they start thinking about them other than, the books and the software types of assets, and also helps them think about ways to start leveraging those assets. One of the things in the service-based business, if you're billing by the hour, you can't scale billing by the hour, right? The only way to make more money is to work more, right? And so one of the things I work with my clients is finding, tweaking their business model so that they can find a way to start leveraging, either finding ways to use less expensive labor, either through automation or through delegation. And that starts with developing processes that so you can help, other people do things, or to have, different types of pricing strategies that may be value-based or, performance-based, and, or finding ways to create something that you can teach others to do, and so then you have a licensing model. So that is what the Is There Rembrandt in Your Attic worksheet goes through. And really my focus is about, again, building wealth for yourself while you're still running your business. But the things that develop value for you are the same things that a potential acquirer would value. Mm-hmm. So a potential acquirer wants to know, if I take your business, like, how will it fit with my business? Like, they're buying the future of your business, not what you're currently doing. And so they're making the calculation of, should I buy someone else's business or should I build it in-house? And so the things that we're looking for are those things that make them go, I want to buy, instead of building it myself.
That was such a great explanation. So what are some of the things that they're looking for?
Let me start here. Like, if you have a really strong positioning, and that is really what's going to make the difference when you're a service-based business, that you generally will have a process of doing something that is particular to that niche, right? So if you build websites for graphic designers, they build their own for, and so you have developed a process for that is really efficient. Everyone in the market knows if you need a website, then you go to her to get it. That's the kind of thing that, say you are an advertising agency and you are currently outsourcing this service because you don't have it in-house. And when you are known for having like that, being the person for that makes you a very attractive target for them. Mm-hmm. So having processes, having strong positioning, your branding, if you have insights, let's say you're in a niche, you've been doing it for 10 years, even though you're not actually selling these insights, but over the years you use internally for your own processes, because you've been working with these clients in this industry with these problems for the last 10 years, you have a wealth of information internally about the best way to serve that market. That has value to somebody else, right? That would take them 10 years to develop it, or they can buy yours, So even things that aren't client facing can still have a lot of value because you're using them internally to develop and provide value to your clients. And those are the kinds of things that can be very valuable to an acquirer.
Yeah. Oh, so much to think about. I love that. Yeah. I think there's a lot that we as business owners don't consider to be of value, but truly you're selling the future of your business, not what you have done or what you are doing currently.
Right. So how have we packaged it in a way that it can provide value to a third party without your head? Because you don't want to go with it, because then you just get a job, right?
Right.
So you want to be able to have somebody else be able to take what you've built and continue to create value. And so that's why we need to package it. That's the idea behind that: identifying, developing, protecting the assets.
That's such a great idea. So much good information. Right now, if somebody needed to start doing something, what are some of your tips on how to protect your assets?
Now, use contracts. And it is, and again, they don't have to be treatises. They can be, 1 or 2 page, statements of work that simply make clear, what the deliverable is, who owns what rights in them. And so I look at it not as something contentious, like, oh, they're going to be angry if I send it to them. It helps clarify, make sure you're both on the same page. If there's something that they don't agree with, isn't it better to know that before you start than after you've delivered, right?
Right.
And so for people to not be afraid of agreements, I would, be really encourage that. And the other thing is to get E&O insurance, which is also called errors and omissions insurance, which is, especially if you're creating content that, things happen. And if in the event, you have some exposure for something that you've written and that somebody claims is theirs, that you have those protections. Or you have a client who's unhappy with something that you did, that you have those protections. And it's not super expensive. It's not free, but it's not, it's less than your car insurance.
Does it come with a regular business insurance? The E&O?
No, general liability insurance kind of handles like physical property or personal injury. So if something happens to your computer or someone slips and falls in your office. Mm-hmm. But to handle the deliverables, that's your E&O for the liability that be attached to your deliverables or your activities.
So we were talking earlier about some tools, business tools, and I know that you're looking into some of the systems and processes tools, but what are some tools that you are using currently in your business that are just fantastic?
Yeah, well, Zoom, but my main, I'm still fairly wedded to MS Office. And it's one of those things you'll have to pry out of my cold, dead hands. I use ClickUp is my project management tool. I find it to be fairly complicated, maybe too complicated, but my VA recommended it to me. So that's what we use. And she's way better at it than I am. And then I use ConvertKit for my email newsletter. And and LinkedIn, I mean, if that's a tool, but that's where I am. That's where I hang out. So I think LinkedIn would be my primary tool.
Wonderful. So I know you hang out at LinkedIn. So if somebody wanted to contact you on LinkedIn, what is your handle?
Yeah, Erin Austin, because I've been there so long that I am.
You were able to grab that.
Well, I don't think anyone was on it when I got it. So it is just Erin Austin.
The highly coveted full name handles.
Yes.
Awesome. And then what is your website?
My website is thinkbeyondip.com. And there you can get a free copy of my Is There a Rembrandt in Your Attic download. And there's some other freebies in there too.
Wonderful. Well, I'm going to have all of this information on the show notes as well. So, if anybody is looking into it, they can contact you. And Erin, I had so much fun chatting with you. I loved it. So it was so fun, so easy.
It was a lot of fun. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I'm just so happy you were here with us today, sharing all of your gems of knowledge. And I just look forward to continuing our conversations again. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you.